Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for today's vlog, I'm going to talk a little bit about my pregnancy story and my birth story. So for those of you that do follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I had a little bit of a rocky end to my pregnancy. Obviously Colby was born 7 weeks early and everything went a little bit crazy. So I'm going to kind of go through that in more detail, but I'm going to start at the very beginning, which is obviously when I found out I was pregnant. So Michael and I were getting married in October 2018 and we knew like we wanted to have kids or baby kind of straight away. So I came off my pill in May. I mean, I did go to the doctors about coming off my pill and I said, oh, like, how long would you recommend coming off the pill? And the doctor was like, it literally takes 28 days to come out your system. So I would recommend coming off it either in September or October time. But I obviously decided not to do that because I read up so much online about it taking like years and years and years for the pill to come out people's systems. So I really like stressed myself out about it. I was like, oh God, it's going to take us ages to conceive, rah, 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 rah. So I actually ran out of my pill packet. I think it was in May. So I just thought, oh, do you know what? That's fate. I'm just going to stop taking the pill, not get a repeat prescription, and we'll go from there. So obviously we weren't really being very careful, let's just say. But you just kind of don't expect to fall pregnant so quickly, basically. But yes, I had one period when I came off of my pill and I was using like the Ovia pregnancy app, which a couple of my friends have recommended. So it kind of tells you when you're ovulating and all of that. But I didn't quite get to that stage because my first period, I think it came at like 38 days or something ridiculous like that, which is like 10 days longer than your 28-day cycle. So I'd like majorly stressed myself out about this because my period was so late. I was like, oh, for God's sake, like I'm only going to ovulate once in 38 days. Trauma, trauma, trauma. And then I just didn't have a period. I think it was like 70 odd days like before anything happened. And I was like, oh my God, this is awful. Well, I'm a Google diagnoser. Is anybody else a Google diagnoser? I diagnosed myself with polycystic ovaries, self-diagnosed, this is what I've got. We're not going to be able to have a baby. The world's going to come to an end. So I booked myself a doctor's appointment and then they did me some blood tests. I didn't waste doctor's time, but I was so like adamant that we wanted to have a baby after the wedding that I just didn't want anything to come in the way of that. And I kind of, if there was going to be an issue or anything like that, I just wanted to know so I could prepare for it, I guess. I think that's more what it was. I wanted to know if there was anything wrong so we could like go from there, basically. So yes, had my blood test done, and then literally the day before my blood test results were due back, I got a message from my friend Vicky and she'd said, oh my God, I'm pregnant, I can't believe it. And you know when you're, well, sounds really, really horrible. And I think I've told Vicky this, but I thought, oh my God, I'm so, obviously I was really excited for her, don't get me wrong, but I was like, a smidgen of me was like, oh, I wish I was pregnant. And then I just had this weird feeling. So literally the same day I had some little cheapy pregnancy tests that my friend had given me. I think they were just like a bulk buy off Amazon. And I thought, oh, do you know, I'm just going to do a pregnancy test. I don't know what made me do it. It might have been the fact that Vicky said that she was pregnant, the fact that I hadn't had a period in like 70 odd days. But yeah, so I did this pregnancy test and it came up with 2 lines. And meantime, Michael is playing golf. So I'm like, oh God, no, this can't be right, this can't be right. So I got another one of the cheapy tests, 2 lines. And my heart was like, oh, literally going 100 miles an hour. Michael was on the golf course, so I hadn't even said anything to him at this time. I just sort of had done this test. So I text him saying, oh, you need to come home, I think I'm pregnant. To which he's looked at his phone and thought, oh, here we go again. She's being dramatic. Like, I'll finish my 18 holes and then I'll come back. So yeah, I spoke to Michael, I texted him and he was like, oh, I'm just going to finish my round of golf. Like, I'm sure everything's fine. I was like, okay, I cannot tell him I'm pregnant whilst we go to golf. So I was like mid-teaching singing lessons. So I had a gap this week. I can't remember if one of my students was ill or something like that. I literally had a half an hour gap. So I went all the way to Tesco's. I say all the way to Tesco's. Tesco's is literally like 10 minutes away. So it was kind of a little bit fine to be back. So yes, I bombed it to Tesco's, got a clear blue because, you know, the pregnancy tests that tell you how many weeks. So yes, took the pregnancy test and okay, I'm pregnant and it's 3+ weeks. So I saw that and I was like, that is really, really vague. Don't give me a 3+ weeks. Like, you need to tell me how pregnant I am. At this point, it was how many weeks before our wedding? I can't remember how many weeks before our wedding it was when I found out, but I know it was the 5th of September when we found out, because that's my parents' wedding anniversary. So yes, I then taught one of my students, it's Caitlin's, if you're watching, hello Caitlin. Yes, I found out I was pregnant just before your singing lesson, and I was literally all hot and flustered because I was like, oh my goodness me. So yeah, I was like, oh my goodness. So yeah, 5th of September 2018, we found out we were pregnant, but we didn't know how pregnant I was, which was a little bit of a, not a worry, I would say, but I had my wedding dress, which if anyone's seen my wedding dress, it was like skin tight. So yeah, if I was going to kind of be like 20 weeks pregnant or whatever at my wedding, we would have to plan B my wedding dress, which obviously I didn't really want to do. So yes, the day after we found out we were pregnant, we decided to tell our parents, and obviously we had to then explain, we don't really know how far gone we are. She's not had a period in however this many days. But yes, so literally we have not got the foggiest idea like how far gone I am. So we'd booked a private scan. So yeah, we went on this Saturday, and it was, I think it was because Caitlin's singing lessons on a Wednesday. So it was Wednesday we found out. Thursday we told the parents. We had told my mum and dad first, and I'm not gonna lie, I was pooping my pants to tell my mum and dad. I don't know why, because they knew that we were gonna have a baby after the wedding, but I literally had no reason to be scared, because they both just cried happy tears like, oh my god, I can't believe it. My mum was like, I knew you were gonna fall pregnant before the wedding, because I'd kind of been speaking to my mum before saying, yeah, I think I'm gonna come off the pill. And yes, so they were like dead excited. And then we went to tell Steve and Heidi, they weren't my in-laws at the time officially. So yeah, we went to tell my in-laws, and again, they just couldn't believe it. They were so shocked. Everyone was really shocked actually. I think Steve and Heidi, Michael's parents, were actually probably more shocked than my mum and dad. And I actually thought it would probably be the other way around. My mum and dad were like, oh, I knew you'd do this. So yeah, phoned the doctors, and then I obviously had an appointment with my midwife, and they fitted me in like really, really quickly, because obviously I didn't know how far gone I was, but the stress of not knowing how far gone I was like too much. So we booked a private scan. Like, we were really, really excited, turn up for the scan, and then literally you see my ovaries on the screen. Is it my ovaries? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. No, not my ovaries. My womb, whatever it is, basically this thing, and there's an egg. That's all you can see, like the tiniest thing. And they're like, yeah, we can see that the eggs come out of the ovary, but there was no baby. And I was like, oh God. And you know, when you just like, oh, I felt gutted. I felt so deflated after that. So basically they were saying I was probably like 4 or 5 weeks pregnant, and there was pretty much nothing to see. So we left feeling like really, really deflated. It was just a tiny little blob. I'll put a little picture up now so you can see our little baby blob, which we called our little Rice Krispie. Yeah, so I was asking questions to the lady that was scanning me, saying, oh, like, will it turn into a baby? Like, what's the deal? Like, does this happen to people if they're, like, if anything can go wrong? And they were like, oh, we can't really say, we can't really guarantee anything. But yes, so we had a rescan, and then I think it was like 3 weeks later, and then I was about 9 weeks pregnant. I probably got my dates like totally wrong there, but we actually saw like a little baby thing. I'll put the pictures in the video as well. So yes, we found out how far pregnant we were, and it worked out that I would be 11 weeks pregnant at our wedding. So we decided to announce at our wedding, which was so exciting. I'm actually gonna put the video of our announcement at the wedding here now, because oh my god, it gives me shivers every time. It was literally the most incredible moment ever, obviously apart from when Colby was born. But oh my god, like the love and the shock, that everything in the room was just crazy. So we told our parents, our siblings, their partners, and the best man Stephen, and my bridesmaids. So yeah, like my nan and granddads didn't know, and yeah, so hardly anybody in the room knew. So that was really, really special.
We would like to raise a glass to one person who was not able to make it today. Over the last 11 weeks, they have become the most important person in our lives, and we cannot wait for you to meet him or her. We are delighted to announce Baby Chris will be joining us in May 2019. Can we please raise a glass to Baby Chris?
Yes, lovely smooth pregnancy. I had no morning sickness, no, nothing. We were very impatient. Both of us wanted to find out the gender of the baby. So we booked a private scan for 16 weeks exactly, which was the day after Michael's birthday. So we found out on the 22nd of November that we were having a baby boy. We didn't tell anyone that we booked the private scan, and I had this idea of surprising everyone, and yeah, it didn't go to plan because we were so excited. We literally turned up to the parents' houses as soon as we found out and told them that we were having a baby boy. We got like some little blue balloons, a helium tank, blow. We got a helium tank and then blew the balloons up and put them in some boxes and let them open the boxes. It was funny when we went to my mum and dad's. My mum and dad like still didn't really, we turned up this big box, bearing in mind. So we turned up with a big massive box and we say to my mum, right, you need to vote. Do you think it's a boy or a girl? My mum was like, no, I'm not guessing until your 20-week scan. Like, I want to see how you're showing. I want to see how you're carrying, and then I'll make my guess. And we were like, no, mum, you need to guess now. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll say a girl then. So then they opened the box and a blue balloon came out and they were like, ah! So at this point, my mum still didn't realise that we were going to reveal the gender to her because she was a little bit slow at the time. So yes, everyone was like ridiculously excited. My mum and dad had a boy first and Michael's mum and dad had a boy first. So that's quite nice really. So we're following in both of their footsteps. Very cringe, isn't it? But yeah, that was really nice. My first kind of little curveball, believe it or not, it's easy to remember because it was Christmas morning. Oh God, it was a disaster. So we'd always go out Christmas Eve for drinks. Obviously I had soft drinks because I was pregnant. And we got back, we didn't get back late. I think we got back at like 10:30, 11, something like that. So Michael and I had gone to bed. I woke up about 1 a.m, went to the loo and splash, I had a bleed, which was horrible. It was scary. I thought I was miscarrying. I thought I was losing the baby. We went literally straight to A&E. At this point, I had like no complications, no worries, no nothing with my pregnancy. So I didn't even realise that I could phone the labour ward. So we went and sat in A&E Christmas morning for like, I think we were there for like an hour and a half getting carted to like all the different people. So I saw the gynecologist. They had a little check and said that like it's absolutely fine, nothing to worry about. Apparently in the second trimester, like it's quite common to have like a bleed. So I was like, okay, right, I've been checked, it's absolutely fine. They sent me home. We were home at Christmas morning. And then obviously Christmas morning, we told the parents and they was like, oh God, my mum was crying. Like, why didn't you tell me? I thought, I'm not going to phone you at 2 o'clock Christmas morning, be like, Mum, I'm bleeding, I'm just going to the hospital. You're gonna get scared if I say that. I thought I'd rather just tell everyone the day after. So Christmas Day, Michael and I were literally knackered because we'd had like 3 hours sleep, if that. So that was my first little scare. And then I guess you kind of think that that's just the end of it. I had a lovely pregnancy. I absolutely loved being pregnant. Michael used to say that I've never known anybody enjoy a pregnancy as much as you. Like, I cannot tell you, even after the bleed, like, because I was so reassured by the hospital, I was just like, yeah, I loved it. I love my bump. I love feeling the movements. I absolutely just loved it. Like, nothing else to say until everything took a turn for the worst. So when I was 30 weeks pregnant, I had another bleed. So this was about 1 a.m. I'd got up, gone to go to the loo, as everyone that's been pregnant or is pregnant knows, your bladder is horrific when you're pregnant. So I was up like 3 times a night for a week anyway. So I got up, gone to the loo, and literally it was like somebody had turned a tap on there. Like the bathroom looked like a murder scene. At this point, oh my God, I actually can't explain how, oh God, why am I getting upset? I can't explain how it felt. I didn't cry at the time. I just was like, Michael, you need to get my hospital notes. We need to phone the hospital. And yeah, like it was horrific. And at this point I'm still bleeding, so it's still gushing from me without being really, really graphic. So we got my maternity notes. I phoned the labour ward and they was like, where do you live? Da-da-da-da-da, because basically it was, is it going to be quicker for you to come to us, or do we need to send an ambulance out, basically? So yeah, I was pooping my pants, if I'm perfectly honest, as anyone would be, I guess. But I'm actually surprised how well I kind of kept myself together at the same time. I don't know, I just had this thing in my head, like, panic and stress isn't going to do any good for the baby. So yeah, we had an awful drive to the hospital. I was sat on a towel. I'm not joking. So I went into the hospital. I had blood splattered all down my legs. I was in a pair of shorts and my dressing gown. Like, that was it. We had, obviously, when you're bleeding, you just want to get out and go to the hospital and be seen by the professionals. So yeah, I turned up, how embarrassing, running through the hospital with blood splattered down my legs, looking like an absolute state in my slippers. So yeah, I was then seen kind of straight away by one of the doctors, and I was kept in for like quite a long time. I'd stopped bleeding at this point, and we've got our little dog Ralph. So Michael had gone home. I said, oh, it's fine, like, just leave me, I'm all right. Michael had gone home, and then literally pretty much as soon as Michael had gone home, I'd been moved into the lilac ward. So that's like not a one-on-one kind of private room, it's a ward. So then I'd stood up to go to the toilet again, and whoosh, I had a massive, massive bleed again. So I pulled on my thing, and I was like, oh my God, no one's coming, what do I do? Funny thing, this is me all over. I had my Ugg slippers on at the time. I literally whipped them off as quick as I could and slid them under the bed. At what point, when you're having a massive bleed, do you think, oh, I'm gonna ruin my Ugg slippers? Oh God, yes, yeah, so that's what I did. And then I started going to walk to try and get one of the midwives because they weren't coming. It felt like forever, but in hindsight, it was probably literally, 20 seconds. I started walking, and then I thought, I can't walk because I'm bleeding. I kind of made this big mess everywhere in the hospital. I was thinking, oh God, what's everyone going to think of me? So yes, I phoned Michael straight away, and they wheeled me straight into labour ward. Everything else from there is kind of like a bit of a massive blur. So I know I had like quite a few bleeds on that day. I think I might have had maybe 6 or 7. And so Michael was with me like the whole time after that, and my mum came in for quite a lot of it as well. So they were kind of like weighing up the amount of blood I'd lost, and yeah, it really wasn't nice. I had this test taken. It's a bit of a weird test really, because you take it, and if it comes back positive, it means that you're potentially going to go into labour within the next 7 days, but that's not 100% accurate. But if it comes back as a no, then it is accurate. So basically, I think they give you the test to see if it's going to be a no, basically, because I guess the yes is a little bit irrelevant. But that came back positive. And at this point, again, I started having contractions. So I was taking pills to stop me from going into labour. But the contractions weren't me going into labour because my cervix was fully closed. It was literally my uterus was kind of going and tightening, just like it was coinciding with my bleeding, basically. So that was horrific, like really, really horrific. One of the things that I remember most is when I was lying down in bed and the doctors had come. I think this was after the 3rd bleed, so I don't think that I was in the labour ward at this point. It was on the lilac ward. So they'd like rushed the doctors over, and the doctor said to me, oh, can you just do a cough? So I did a massive cough, and then this blood clot, well, in my maternity notes, it's described as a blood clot the size of an apple come out. So it was just, and then they take it away to weigh it. It's like, oh, really, really disgusting. So yeah, so I was in hospital, and I really, really wasn't myself for the next, I was in hospital, I think it was for like 8 days in total, 8, 9, maybe even 10 days. I had 2 iron transfusions as well, and they had like blood ready for me if I needed a blood transfusion, which was quite daunting to think like that. I hadn't had a bleed for like the last 3 days I was in hospital, but I was still bleeding, like leftover blood basically. But when it got to like almost me thinking that they were going to send me home, I didn't really want to go home because I just felt so worried. I know this sounds like really pathetic, but I was scared to stand up because every time I stood up, I would then have these awful, awful bleeds. It just wasn't nice. It wasn't a nice time at all. Luckily, the whole time I was having these bleeds, my cervix was staying shut, so I wasn't actually going into labour. My body wasn't going into labour. So yes, I ended up having a scan at, I think they ended up scanning me just before I was 32 weeks, and everything was absolutely fine with Colby. Though I had placenta previa, which is why they said I had all the bleeding in the first place. It's basically where your placenta is either covering your cervix or it's really, really close to the cervix. And mine was, I think, 2 centimetres away, so that's not really much at all. Yes, so eventually I was sent home. I'll just take everything really, really easily. And yes, so I was home. I had 2 nights in my own bed, which, it was so nice to sleep in my own bed. As much as I wanted to be in the hospital because I didn't feel safe at home, it was nice to sleep in my own bed. It was lovely. And yeah, so 2 days at home, and then we'd gone to pick up our new car, and I'd gone to the loo. The whole time I was at hospital, the doctors and midwives had said, don't worry unless it's fresh red blood, because you're going to kind of have old blood that's flushing itself out. But yeah, that's going to happen. So we were in the shop picking up our car, and I'd gone to the loo and I'd wiped, and there was this fresh red blood, and I was like, oh my God, my heart was literally palpitating. Thank God I had my maternity notes and hospital bag if I had had to go into hospital, because I learnt that mistake last time, because my mum, the poor woman, had to like go around my house. My things are really, really messy most of the time, and try and pack me a hospital bag. So yeah, luckily I had my maternity notes and hospital bag with me. I phoned the hospital and they had said, just keep an eye on it. Like, have you felt baby move? I was like, yeah, he's really, really active. I can feel him move. But obviously I just wanted to phone and say, because I've got this fresh red blood, although it's not an active bleed, it was still kind of there. So yeah, it got to the evening and this was still kind of happening. I just said to Michael, I really, really don't feel comfortable. I said, I know the hospital don't make me feel like a nuisance whatsoever. I actually cannot fault the staff at Hinchinbrook Hospital. But yes, I said to Michael, I just don't feel comfortable. I said, I know I'm going to feel like a right pain in the ass. I'd sent a picture to my mum and 2 of my friends, really, really gross, saying, do you think this is red blood? I'd called Michael into the toilets at Jaguar. He was like, yes, it's red blood. So yeah, it got to the evening and I just thought, I do not feel comfortable going to sleep in my own bed knowing that this is happening. So I phoned them and they was like, come in, we'll get you seen. So I went to the hospital, I was seen, and they was like, no, it doesn't look like it is active bleeding. We think it's still left over is what the doctors had said, but we'll keep you in for a night anyway. And then I'd said to Michael, oh, well, they've said they think it's all right. I think like I'll just go home, sleep in my own bed. So Michael went to grab one of the midwives and said, oh, Amy's happy to go home. At this point they said, oh, you'd have to sign a disclaimer to say you're not taking medical advice. So I was like, no, I'll definitely say I'm not signing any disclaimers. So yes, I ended up staying in that night. I didn't have an active bleed that night. So I think that was the 19th of March. Yeah, because Colby was born on the 21st. I had an okay day, but they wanted to keep me in for another night because the blood was getting bigger and bigger. So I was getting more each time. And then about 11 o'clock on the 20th of March, I started getting the tightenings again. And I thought, I know I'm going to have a bleed. I know, like, you know when you know your body, I just knew it was going to happen. So at this point, we had like a little WhatsApp group set up with our parents and Michael in, because Michael wasn't in the hospital at this point. So yes, I was saying in the group, oh God, the tightenings are happening. I think I'm going to have enough bleed. Like, the midwives are a little bit concerned, but they're not letting on that they're too worried. At this point, Michael is not replying to anything. Like, nothing at all. I'm getting nothing from him. When I was really, really like, who goes to bed with their phone on silent when their wife's in hospital? But it turns out that Michael had his phone on loud, but it was, well, he just slept through. I mean, I actually do believe that because Michael's a deep sleeper. Even now when Colby wakes up, Michael is out for the count. So, yes. so I couldn't get hold of Michael. So it got to about 11:30 at night, and my dad, bless him, had driven all the way to ours. It's only like 10 minutes, but you don't really want to get out of bed, do you? He'd driven all the way to ours to wake Michael up to say, like, mate, you need to go into hospital, like, now. So Michael came in, got a big telling off from me, and he was like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Should be sorry because I couldn't get hold of you, and that was really stressing me out. Then, there goes the bleed, and I had loads and loads of bleeds. I think I had like 7 or 8 bleeds, and then it got to the changeover in the morning, so they change over between 7 and 8 o'clock. The 2 new doctors came in and a new midwife, and she'd said, oh, just to let you know, I think they are saying they're going to deliver you. So I'm like, I was 33 weeks exactly at this point, so Colby would have been 7 weeks early. But we kind of met the doctors from NICU, like they had a space for him, and yes, so they were going to deliver him. The doctors came in. We had 2 women doctors this morning, and I actually think, still to this day, I think if it hadn't have been the 2 women, they maybe would have kept me a little bit longer. But the 2 women said, obviously, we don't want you to deteriorate, because if you deteriorate, then basically Colby is going to deteriorate too. So yeah, and then he was born at 10:19 in the morning on the 21st of March. So although it was an emergency cesarean, it wasn't actually all that crazy. It was quite relaxed. And believe it or not, the lady that actually pulled Colby out of me is the lady that I first saw back on Christmas Day when I had my first bleed. So I kind of like ended it where I started it, which is a really weird way of looking at it. But yeah, so I had a bit of a rubbish end to the pregnancy, but I absolutely wouldn't change for the world. He's in his snooze pod, that's why I just slipped back there. But yes, oh my God, he totally just trumped as well. I wonder if you heard that. Oh my God, Colby, you little poopy pants. How embarrassing. I always find that embarrassing when he pops. I don't know why, because I think that's just the thing that babies do. So yes, we went in for my cesarean. Michael got all scrubbed up. I took a picture of him and we played Diana Ross, I'm Coming Out. So I had this really sad labour playlist for when I went into labour, but I didn't actually go into labour, didn't use it. So yeah, we had I'm Coming Out. I want the world to know. Got to let this show. So yes, we had Diana Ross, I'm Coming Out playing. And then, yeah, they wheeled me in. You feel so dramatic, like they full on wheel you in on the bed. I'm like, I can walk, I'm fine. I've not bled for 2 hours, I can walk. But no, they wheeled me in like God knows what, into theatre. And then, oh my God, so the spinal, they're like, you mustn't move when you do this. Really try not to flinch. So I said, oh, okay, can you tell me like when you're going to do it so I can prepare myself? I don't want to flinch. I don't want to end up paralysed. Yeah, the spinal goes in and obviously I flinched. And Michael was like, Amy, you really need to try and stay still. I was like, I know I need to try and stay still, Michael. I don't want to get paralysed. No, obviously I didn't say that. I was like, oh, yeah, I know I really need to stay still. So Michael was just like, well, I say Michael was holding my hands. I was squeezing Michael's hands really, really hard. Yes, and then the spinal went in and they kind of then say to you, oh, can you feel this cold spray? Does it feel cold? They sprayed it on my leg. I was like, nope, I can feel it being sprayed, but it doesn't feel cold. And then they kind of gradually moved up. And then they sprayed my tummy and they was like, oh, does that feel cold? I was like, yeah, that feels really cold. I can feel it. It still feels cold. So then the doctor kind of moved away and I said to Michael, I was like, I don't know if that actually did feel cold. I'm just really scared of feeling my tummy be sliced open. So they gave me a couple of extra injections in my belly just to make sure, and then it was fine. So the cesarean is the weirdest thing in the world. You can full on feel them tugging at you. It is not nice at all. I say not nice, I would do it 10 times over for Colby, like I really would. I'd do it all over again. But yeah, you can, it's like, my auntie always said a cesarean felt like someone's doing washing up in your tummy, but it doesn't hurt, you can just feel it, and that is exactly what it feels like. So that was just odd, really. And then they kind of went like this over the sheet, pulled Colby up, and there he was, he cried, which was the best thing ever. So yes, we had 2 scenarios. The first was that He stayed in the room for a little bit and then he kind of got wheeled to special care and Michael went with him. The other scenario would be that he didn't cry and literally he would have had to have gone straight to NICU. But no, he was in the room for, I think it probably was about 3 minutes. So it wasn't that long, but Michael got to cut his umbilical cord, which I really wanted Michael to do. And Michael was like, oh no, I'm definitely not doing that. But I think because of everything I've gone through, Michael was like, I'm just going to cut the umbilical cord because Amy will be happy with that. So yeah, I'd always said that regardless as to what's happening, I wanted Michael to go with Colby, which I'm assuming most people would do anyway. I had this lovely doctor talking to me for the rest of it, and Michael asked the question, he was like, oh, how much longer's left? Thinking they would say like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, and they was like, oh, about 45 minutes. I was like, huh? 45 more minutes? Oh God, so I thank God I had this lovely lady sat with me to distract me. Yeah, Michael and I obviously both cried when he came out crying. Oh, he's showing off his cry. You showing off your cry because I'm talking about you crying. It's a much louder cry now, believe you me. The worst bit for me, obviously, when Colby was born, it was the best of a rubbish scenario, basically. Obviously, he cried and then he went straight into NICU. So I'm kind of just left there, no Michael, no nothing. I took my phone in with me to my cesarean. I said to Michael, oh, send me a picture of him as soon as you can. And they'd taken some pictures, so Michael had sent them over, so I kind of could see him, but I don't know, it's not the same seeing a picture of your baby than actually having your baby on you, being at least in the same room with your baby. I didn't actually get to see Colby other than him literally be whipped up like that in the sheet for, I think it must have been about 5 hours, because they don't let you go over to special care until you can stand and put yourself in a wheelchair. So the midwives and doctors have said, oh, use this time to sleep, like you're probably not going to get much sleep for the next however long. Use this time to sleep, and then when you wake up you can go and see Colby. How on earth are you going to be able to sleep when your baby's over in special care? Like, I literally just laid there thinking, I've just given birth, well, not given birth, well, yeah, no, I still gave birth to him, just he came out the sunroof, not the vajayjay. So yeah, I was just laying there, babyless. Luckily I had a private room, so I didn't have to be surrounded by mums and babies. But yeah, at that point, I think that's probably one of the most loneliest points I've ever felt, just being on my own without my baby. Like that, I mean, I know, especially now, like it really opens your eyes when you have a premature baby at how many other people have premature babies. Some babies a lot earlier than what Colby was. So I sort of felt that I was robbed of those first precious moments. I think I didn't actually get to hold Colby until he was 3 days old, which, like, that is heartbreaking. That's horrible. I didn't get to hold my own baby that I'd been carrying for 33 weeks. I just could look at him and put my hands into 2 little holes in an incubator. Like, it was horrible. I don't think that I've actually taken the time to properly digest everything that's happened, because now Colby's okay and he's healthy, he's home with us. I think I just prefer to focus on that rather than focus on the past and all the rubbish things that happened. I think I like to look at the future and what we've got to come, but when I do start talking about it and reflecting, I then suddenly realise that it wasn't nice at all. It really wasn't very nice. So yeah, I got to hold him on day 3, which was like, oh my God, the most precious moment ever. I mean, it was like the most awkward cuddle ever, because he was like tangled in all of his wires, his cannula, his oxygen, like everything, but I got to cuddle my baby, so that was really special. Yeah, I don't really know how I got through it, but I did, with the help of Michael and my mum and my family. Yeah, and then we had 20 days in special care with Colby, which was horrific, but yeah, we're here now. he's here now and he's healthy and well, and he'll be 11 weeks on Thursday. So yeah, that's a little bit of a, I would say a brief overview of my pregnancy and birth story, but it really is not a brief one because it's really long. So I have to do these silly things to stop him from crying. So yes, I'm going to go and feed Colby. Thank you for listening. If you would like, see, this is real life, this. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to my channel. And yes, thank you for watching, but I gotta go. Mwah.